Welcome back to Surprised to Be Here. I'm Sarah Coleman. Today I have my good friend and someone I really admire, and we met working together at Peter Marino.
We did.
She was the PR queen, and she has always worked in public relations. She started, where did you start?
I started at French Vogue.
French Vogue.
A little fashion assistant.
She worked at Oscar de la Renta, Valentino. She has done so many things with so many people. Naughty things. Just kidding. But now she's more, we'll talk about this, but there's been a bit of a transition.
There has.
So we'll discuss sort of, you are also a New Yorker.
I am a New Yorker. I've
From
been here
Brooklyn.
since I was like 7.
So you grew up in Brooklyn.
Grew up in Brooklyn. Went to NYU. Live in the West Village. So yeah, I got to get out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're a New Yorker too. It's like, where do you go from here?
I mean, nowhere.
No, like, where
You
is there
just,
to go?
I just like to stay here all the time.
I love to stay here, and I have so many friends who are always like strategizing ways to escape the city. And then
You are always out.
no. I mean to not
In
live
general.
here. To not
Okay,
live
yeah,
here.
yeah.
And then you like start questioning. You're like, wait, should I leave? Am I unhappy? And then I realized like I really genuinely am so happy here because I love New York. It's like in my blood. And no matter where I go, I come back and I just want to kiss the ground. And I think that's how you know, like, you're good.
Yeah, like it's never even crossed my mind.
I mean, it never really occurred to me to live somewhere else unless something or like someone took me somewhere, in which case I might try it. But it's never like, I'm going to go live in, wherever for a month because I hate, I love New York. Freaking love it.
I know, it's so good.
Like my people
it's a
are
romance.
Here. Yeah.
I feel like butterflies right now, almost.
Ugh.
I don't know. I do. Anyways, I think I like to, tradition of one prior to this was I started with word association.
Okay.
Which I enjoyed thoroughly.
I like words.
Yeah, me too. I like association.
Me too.
Okay, madness.
Genius.
I love red ribbon.
Gift. Oh, that was lame.
Octopus.
Oh my God.
Teacher.
Friend.
Lover.
No. Oh, wait. Are we still on octopus?
Yeah.
Oh, tentacles. I was thinking something else, but the word won't come to me. Like grabby or touchy.
Penis.
Big D. Vitamin D.
Cat.
Ugh. That's my association word. Sorry, cat lovers. It's a work in progress.
So Edith and we met. I was 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was just sort of starting. I had just graduated college, and I was extremely
young,
intimidated, horrified. Actually, I think I would shake. Like when I saw you, she would walk.
Really?
Yeah, you would walk out of the elevator in like a trench coat to the ground. And I was just like, fuck this. With sunglasses, like a tote bag with like newspapers under your arm. And like I
was like a business bitch.
But like and not a cracked smile. Like just like not a hello, just like she's so cool. And then there was, and I remember you had these like fluffy Alexander Wang shoes with a cape on them. Were they?
Oh my God. Yes, but you just like totally dated us for how long ago that was.
Well, sorry.
I had those shoes.
I was just like, I one day will have those shoes.
Those were the days when like we still used to wear crazy shit like that to work.
I mean, I had a boot on my leg. I had a broken foot.
You know what? But I loved it. Like you showed up in the morning and it's like, if you're going to show up, show up.
Yeah.
Also,
my first job.
For like those of you who don't know, I'm sure everybody who's listening here knows, but so we worked together at Peter Marino and like, it's hard to keep up with the boss man. Like you got to show up.
Yes.
It wasn't like Slackerville.
I know. That was...
Anyway, continue your story.
That was crazy. You were really intense. And,
Thank you.
In a good way. And after a few years, she sort of like, I broke her down.
You totally did.
I would like show up at her office just like.
You know what it was? It's so interesting to hear like someone's take on you because I was just trying to like get my shit done because it's not like a slacker kind of office. But I totally hear what you're saying. I think that like, especially back then, I mean, I'm still like fairly guarded, but I think back then you came in and I distinctly remember this about you, which is why I love that you and I are like how we are now. Cause you know, you were considerably younger than I was. And I just remember like my first impressions are usually correct, but yours, I was wrong about you. And I will admit that you were 22 and you like waltzed in and I was like, this bitch. I was like, what the like she owns the place or something. And it wasn't because you were totally humble and you worked hard and like I watched you and I saw you work.
Yeah, everyone thought that.
But there was something about you that I was just like, oh, this girl, I cannot. And yeah, but then you totally like wore me down. And then I got to know you and now you're like one of my favorite people who I also very much admire and respect.
Yeah, well, thanks. I mean, I'm not sure. You know, it's weird you can't see yourself.
No.
I mean, I've definitely grown a lot.
You've changed. Oh my God, everyone has, but you are like a different person.
Yeah, well.
I mean, you're also not 22, so.
Yeah.
Time.
I mean.
Time she is.
I know, it's been.
A maker.
Quite a while. So you went, and what was your job at, what was your job with Peter?
So I was the head of communications for Peter and the firm. So my job was basically to make and keep him famous. I'm kidding. He was way famous before I ever arrived. But no, I think that I came from like many years in fashion before Peter. And I think I knew about him just because he was so fashion adjacent. You know, I knew of his work for Chanel and Dior and Vuitton and all those brands. So I was like familiar with that part of the world. And then just personally, I always had this kind of ancillary interest in architecture and design and all of that stuff. And so when this job came along, I thought it's either going to be the perfect marriage of all these things I love or a complete disaster because I mean, I don't think that I was intimidated by his personality. Like working in fashion, you're very attuned to the cult of personality. So that was not a learning curve, but I didn't know how it was going to go. Also, sidebar, which I will totally admit, I don't know why this is just like a weird thing. I love architects.
Oh, geez.
It's just like, oh my God, this is going to be an office full of architects. It's so dangerous. And every architect will tell you like they're all miserable. They have a God complex, whatever. But that was not why
like, do they have relationships, sort of? Yeah, I guess they do.
I don't think you can paint everyone with a broad brush. I've known
maybe an architect you can, though. I feel like it's the only one that you can. No.
I mean, just over the years now, I've met so many different ones, so I don't know. But
They're
no,
good friends.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to generalize.
Yeah, let's not do that. We're beyond that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was my job, and I think I was there for almost 6 years, which is like my youth. A lifetime there. But no, I still say to everyone, like I worked for a million amazing fashion brands and, you know, afterwards, like worked in the design world and worked for galleries and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm saying I still say that working at Peter's was the best thing I've ever done professionally. It was like finishing school. And it is a total loony bin. And that's not even saying anything bad. That's just
It
facts.
was amazing.
But it was amazing in terms of an education. Like your eye gets so attuned to like, if you're someone who just appreciates that kind of thing, it's like the most beautiful things. And you get really spoiled and picky. And then you go home and you go, I don't want to live with this restoration hardware sofa anymore. Like I want custom drapes.
So when you were working at Vogue, were you living in Paris?
No, I lived here in New York.
And who did you work for? And what was that like? And
Okay.
how old were you?
Okay, so it was my first job out of college. I graduated from NYU, and then in the fall, right after graduation, I got that job at Condé Nast, and oh my God, so many things. I mean, it was like I've obviously come out of my shell a lot, but I was kind of like a shy wallflower, and but I like really wanted to work in fashion, and then I got this job, and it was like I was so wide-eyed all the time. Like I think back, and I must have just been like, everything just seemed like so glamorous and amazing and like exciting, and it was. I think it's very different from now. And like it was that like heyday of fashion. And I hate to talk about it, like your parents do, like it's the 1950s or whatever. But it was like everybody that you knew about and everybody that I saw in magazines and was like, looking at, it's like they were suddenly around me in real life. And I just always felt like this fish out of water. And I always just wanted to do everything perfectly. But I was so intimidated by everyone, but it was like so glamorous and so amazing. And so when I actually started, so by the time I left, Corinne Reutfeld, who everybody knows was the editor, but when I started, the editor was Joan Juliet Buck, who was like this super duper intellectual. And she was like so chic and so amazing in this kind of like American in Paris way, because she was an American, but she was just like brilliant. And so we worked here in the New York office, and I had my boss was like sort of the New York editor, and we're still great friends. And we were like a small team, but we did everything here. So whenever there were photo shoots or whatever, we'd organize everything here. I did a lot of packing boxes. Like everybody comments that I'm the best packer because I have never taken, like I always carry on. I've never checked a bag in like, I don't know, 20 years. But that's a skill that I learned there. I know it sounds so stupid, but
I need you to teach me.
You learn life skills because basically every day, it was a very glamorous place to be. But my job, because I was a little assistant, there were parts of it that were very schleppy. And every day I was like packing garment bags and packing clothes and boxes to send to Paris. So like my packing is chef's kiss.
Wow. That's a skill.
It's totally a skill. And then all the editors would come for Fashion Week, and like my job was to, excuse me, like I had to make sure their trip was flawless and organize all their invitations and like make sure everything was fine. And when Joan came to New York and needed her special tea, I had to like run around Chinatown to find the fucking tea. Like I was so excited. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember actually that when I was working at the Mercer,
Wait, can I say fuck?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I went to Karl Lagerfeld was coming. He would come to stay, and he would stay in the Courtyard Suite, and he would have one room, and his cat would have Choupette would have another room, and I would spend hours framing pictures of the cat and collecting. He wanted like 150 apples, pink lady apples, and I was just like,
but
wow.
Don't you remember like there was a time when like you knew that was crazy, but somehow it was accepted and you did it?
Well, it was my job.
Right.
Yeah.
The first place I ever actually met Joan was also the Mercer, because she used to stay there. Everybody used to stay there. And I was, of course, running around town, like finding something for her. And my boss was like, just take a cab and go deliver it. Like the messenger is too slow or whatever. Back when we just would like, just send messengers for everything. It was so wasteful and so just gross. But anyway, so I took the, I don't know, probably tea or whatever the hell I was looking for her. And it was winter. I remember it was February Fashion Week. And I was just like, oh my God, I had to make sure like my outfit was perfect and all this stuff. And she throws the door open And if you know anything about her, it was the late morning, but she was in this like negligee, but also it was February. So she had this huge fur hat on and she throws the door open and like in the most dramatic fashion was like, so fucking cold in this town. And I was just like, oh. It's just like I didn't know what to do with myself or like how to respond to that. And I was like, here's your tea.
So it's funny because I feel like you sort of existed in this world that was, from talking to you in the past, like your upbringing was relatively like sheltered. You were pretty sheltered and your parents were like kind of strict.
I mean, I was sheltered in the way that like my parents were super overprotective. Like they're not American, and I think just like culturally, but also just the people they are. Yeah. But I wasn't sheltered in the way of like not knowing that things existed in the world. Like they definitely like education was like one of the most important things. And, like you slowly start finding the things that interest you and appeal to you. So I definitely always had this interest in like fashion and design and all this stuff. So I knew of those things. And then obviously, like you go to school in New York, it's just like your campus is New York City.
Yeah.
So like.
And you, and had you ever sort of, like you had sort of experienced and explored like your interests, but had you ever explored like your inner sort of like how you felt?
So no. So that was something that came very much later in life.
Right.
You asked. So you and I have talked about this like ad nauseum in the past few years. This is something that we really, I feel like, connected over.
Yeah.
And
I feel like that's like when we connected was like.
And in a weird way, it's funny because like you look back and it's like what we were talking about when we met. Like we had such a different perception of each other. Mm-hmm. And then so many years later, not so many, like, years later, obviously because of circumstances in life or whatever, like we did find this very common language and common ground. And like, to be fair, like I had to sort of check myself because I was someone who like for, a really long time, like lived in this really like black and white space of like, someone who's younger doesn't know, like she can't teach me anything. Like I have nothing to, and then like I, at a certain point in life, like due to circumstances was like really vulnerable and like really just like looking for anyone around me that could help with this
What
thing.
were the circumstances?
So I had like a pretty traumatic life event, like a boyfriend overdosed and died. And, we certainly don't have to like, or we can get into that here if you want to, but
if you're comfortable, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about anything. It's not, and that's not like at all to minimize it. It's just been like, now it's like 5 years or so since it happened and things are like so wildly different, which is good. Like I'm in such a great place. I feel great. But yeah, it's like, anything. I mean, luckily before that, luckily or not luckily, I don't know. I'd never had anything like that happen. Like I lived a fairly, I think, relatively rosy life. Nobody's life is perfect, but all things considered, like I did not know hardship and tragedy.
Had you ever had your heart broken before?
No, because I was never. I mean, this wasn't a heartbreak. This was just like a life break.
But I'm saying like in general.
Like in a relationship?
Had you ever like felt like.
No, not really. I mean, I had like, things like when you're in your 20s and like, a guy breaks up with you and you really want to like that, but it's not heartbreak. And then it's all relative because you realize like as upsetting as that was, like fucking stupid.
So you had found a person that you were, loved and you had a life together and like.
Oh, it was beyond.
Your whole life was like crashed down.
Crashed down.
Like you had nothing pretty much. You felt like you had like.
I mean, I felt like it's like, in the time you can describe the feelings, but it's almost like indescribable and there aren't sufficient words to describe it unless you've gone through something similar. And I hope to God that like people don't have to go through it. But it's like the unthinkable happens. The best way I can describe it, like in a general way is like, and this isn't even enough, like you feel like a grenade explodes inside of your body, like everything explodes. Your like guts and your insides are all over the wall, all over everything. And it happens every fucking day. And at the beginning, it happens multiple times a day. And you look at yourself and you're just like, human beings are amazing and resilient and insane. And I don't understand what stardust makes us up, because the fact that you don't disintegrate and just like die from this pain is like insanity. It's right.
Yeah. I mean, yes, I have felt that way. No, I don't think that like I have never had a boyfriend die or, overdose even, or I've never had that experience. But I remember seeing you, and it was like, it was really,
It was not me.
I knew that you would be okay one day, and I felt so helpless, and like all I wanted to do was like, I don't even know. There was nothing I could do, but it was like from what the feeling that I have now about like, I mean, not that, I have a feeling about your situation, but like what I saw from you going through this sort of experience that in your eyes, it had destroyed your life, and it was the worst. I mean, it was the worst thing to happen. And you thought that it was your fault, was the thing that made me.
Well, not that
you were like, at a time I felt like you felt responsible, or you should have done something different.
Well, it's so, yes. So like, just to backtrack a little, I think, and this is like, this is when you were like, so you actually, and I'm not saying this, like, I don't know how to say this without sounding in any way like this or like condescending.
You can say whatever you want.
You taught me so many things. And again, like that, I think like a lot of what you and I talk about is like, obviously there's been like a whole process of like self-discovery and like therapy, and like I've worked with a million people and healers and therapists, and like, gave them the contents of my 401k, which by the way was like worth every penny, because I came out of it like a completely changed person. And before that, I had never been to therapy once in my life. And like, I think everybody should go. I totally advocate for it. But I think that a lot of what, now that I'm on the other side, like one of the most important things to have happen is that like any kind of tragedy or life event humbles you, right? Like it knocks you on your fucking ass. And like all the shit that you thought was like your principles and your tenets and the way you live and all that stuff, like you can't hold on to that stuff anymore in principle. So for me, like I became completely vulnerable, and even as it was happening, it was so scary for me because I was acting in ways that I had never acted before. But I felt like if anybody had anything to offer, I just wanted to like absorb and like suck all of that in. And so you were someone who, like, obviously meeting when you were 22, like the way that we met, I was just like, what does this girl have to like teach me? She's a baby. And then when you and I sort of got like friendlier, and you obviously like were like, relaying a lot of your own experiences, which were related to this, and I knew nothing about this world. Like there were so many things that like I listened to, and I was like, you know what? Like, first of all, this is her experience, so she knows what she's talking about. But it's like everybody has something to teach you, and you can't like be in this like ivory tower and be like, well, I'm not going to listen because this person is like this, or this. And like we started having like real conversations about life shit. And like as someone who is not vulnerable most of the time, like I remember like unloading on you and telling you a lot of things that I never would have told not only you, but like anyone, because I realized that like, you had things to say and you were speaking from personal experience. And I was like, I want to hear what this person has to say because it might like enlighten me or it might teach me something. And you did. And like, I mean, since then, you know, obviously, like, I feel like we developed a relationship that started from like something bad happening, but I'm like so like grateful for it because like, I don't know, I feel like over the past few years, especially like you've had so much change and you've been going through so many things. And in a way, I feel like we've been on this like very parallel path, but like on our own paths, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think when you were going through that, I was also like in a similar situation. I think I was 2 years sober. I had gotten, and I was still really like,
Shaky.
I was a little shaky on like not being really regimented in like, I didn't feel safe yet in my surroundings.
Yeah.
So I was like constantly learning and like, I mean, still obviously, but like I was like really trying to, I had just sort of started learning about living. I think like as a human being that wasn't numb or in a lot of pain or just like completely detached. And so I think for me, those first 2 years were like so eye-opening, and it was just like lights going off, and I just had gained so much from listening to other people that when I saw you, I was like, she needs information.
Yeah.
Like she needs to know that there's, she's not alone and that there's so many people who have gone through a situation like that are on the other side of it that have like, something to offer. And I feel like, in the past, prior to that, like a lot of relationships that I had when, problems or issues like were discussed or communicated about, there was for me, a lot of the time there wasn't like solution or relief. It was just unloading and like venting and then, misery and misery, just like dancing together. And, for the first time I had experienced like connection with people that when I like shared what was going on with me, they would share their experience and sort of, it felt like it was like I was actually growing, and I just wanted you to find that. And I didn't know how to like, I mean, everyone has their own sort of path. I was just, as we like saw each other more, after that, like it felt like a layer would come off and a layer. And then I kept, we both sort of, but I think it was very parallel
too. Like I genuinely like so appreciated what you were putting forward. And I think for me, like, it's like, I'm someone who's like, I'm not easy. Like you get me or you don't get me. And I think that like, I was so appreciative of like how open you were being that I wanted you to know how much I appreciated it. Cause I wasn't necessarily like verbalizing it. And I was like, oh, she's so helpful. Like she's so like, I hope she knows this. But yeah, it's like what you were saying, like it was like twofold. So I think like I needed information because, like I am someone who has never done a recreational drug in my life. Like I don't care about it. It doesn't appeal to me. I don't give a shit. I barely drink. So like, I mean, in the you can't make this shit up department, irony of ironies, like that's the girl that ends up with the addict boyfriend. Like if you put powdered sugar and cocaine in front of me, I 100% could not tell the difference. Like that's how, so talk about shelter.
I don't know if I could, I mean.
Like I just don't, like I don't care about it. It is not my world. So like when that happened, imagine it's like compounded on top of a tragedy that happened. It's like this thing that it's not your language, you completely don't understand. So there were all these unanswered questions on top of this sudden death, which is like, wait, what? Like what? And it's just like, when I mean, before he died, obviously, like I was aware of some of it, but not to the extent. And even that, I just realized that like in those years, I think that I was operating on some kind of like adrenaline or like I was always in triage. Like I was just trying to save the current situation. I could never get ahead of it. And it's that thing, like hindsight is like fucking 2020. Like I wish I knew all the things I knew now because I would have handled it differently, but I was just trying to like stay afloat and like, not tell anyone because it's so secretive. But then I was just like, I don't know how to do this. It's like me trying to treat someone with cancer at home. So the whole thing was just like a horrid mess. And I think like in the cosmos, obviously like now it was never going to end well. But, you always think about how you could have done it differently. But yeah, like what you said, so I never thought it was my fault. Obviously, it wasn't my fault. I think that like, even now, that's something that I might never like come to a complete, acceptance of. But it's like all the things you could have done differently had you known. But it's like that with everything in life. It's like, had I known, yes, but you didn't know. And you can't blame yourself because when we're moving through anything, you're making decisions in your life and you're taking actions in your life based on information that you have in that given moment. So it's like, it's like trying to yell at a child for something. Like you can't blame them because they don't know.
Yeah.
But I think also, I just want to say one thing about you moving through it is like, I felt that you were like pretty shaky in that time. And the idea of like trying to help someone else, I felt like, I hope she doesn't feel pressured or anything, but I also think that like, now that I've like been around this a little bit more, I think when you're going through it, trying to talk someone else through it or trying to help someone else through it sort of like works in tandem with your own healing, right?
Yeah, I
like,
needed it.
Yeah. And like,
I
didn't
needed to help
know-
you. I was like, let me help you, please.
Yeah.
I'm suffering.
And like, I didn't know anything about this world and like all the stuff that I've learned about like addiction or like people in recovery. It's like, it is part of the whole like ethos of these programs like AA or anything else that people do. Like in helping others is how you help yourself. And it's not just about this like blanket, like be of service or whatever. Like, yes, that's important. I think that's a way to move forward in recovery and all this stuff. But like, like anything else, like you see yourself and your life journey, whatever, I hate that word, reflected in other people. And sometimes you'll be saying something to someone and it sort of like sparks something in yourself and you're like, oh, I can apply that to myself. Or like, I'm telling this person to do it. I shouldn't be a hypocrite and like, I should live that way too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that also the only way that I learned, I remember when I had moved back home, things were like really not looking very good. Like I was not looking good. I did not feel good, like physically. My
Which is weird 'cause you're smoking, babe.
My career was not, on course as I did not think, things were going to end up that way at 27. And I remember feeling the best that I had ever felt, though. Like I remember I have this moment when I was like walking to the subway to go to work one day. Like it was like I had a new job at when I was working at the Mercer, and I was felt like a joy that I had never felt. And the only thing that was different was that I was like actively helping other people and like had built some sort of a semblance of self-esteem. And there was like proof in that, like I did not, nothing was going the way that I wanted it to. And I still felt better than like I had when I had, felt hotter or, I was in better shape. Like I was not looking good. Things were not good. And I felt
not good,
like,
bitch.
I mean, I had bleached my hair and it.
Wait, I don't remember that.
Yeah, because no one saw me. I bleached my hair and it all fell out. It was so crazy. Like all of my hair, that actually happens. You know
That's
how they say
crazy.
like,
Yes.
don't bleach your hair, it'll fall. Like I had like a layer, like I had like a long layer here, and then like I had the top of my hair was just like
I missed that whole period of your life.
yeah, it was blonde for like 12 hours.
Whoa,
I
whoa,
went
whoa,
into
whoa,
like
whoa.
it was
Okay.
really bad, but I felt never better. I've never felt better, which freaked me out. And I was just like, okay, so like this whole self-esteem and, you know, doing esteemable acts and helping other people really worked. So
Yeah.
I went with it. But yeah, it actually like
And look at you now.
yeah, on the outside there was nothing. Which like my entire upbringing was like, if you look good and everything appears to be
then everything will
good,
be fine.
everything is fine.
Of
And that's
course.
like all that mattered. And it was like, don't, you know,
Don't air the dirty
yeah,
laundry.
and like what dirty laundry? Because there isn't any. Just like
Right.
that's deeply packed away in like a closet inside of a closet.
But it's so crazy because I think like
yeah, you're like screaming on the
yeah, like
inside.
you and I have both. I mean, we've like been through this, but we've also talked about this. It's like, you know, it takes so much work to undo and unlearn all those things that were ingrained in us. And even now, it's like you don't realize that it happens. It's like happening to you and it's happening with or without you. It's like it's on a cellular level. It's in your cells. It's intergenerational. It's all those things that people talk about. And it's true. And then we arrive in adulthood and something feels weird and like everything feels lopsided and you're like having struggles and you're not sure why and nothing's working and you keep getting like punched
yeah, it's like
in the face.
the
and you're like,
opposite of flow.
yeah. And you're like, what is this? And then you realize what it is. And it's like, you know, it's the hardest thing to do and it's the hardest work to do, like to break those patterns. And like people in your past or even in your family or whatever, like they're not like, they don't understand like why you're doing this and why you're like kicking up all the dust. And it's like, it's self-preservation because you have to save yourself, but also like it's making yourself so much better.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
like,
I think it's more than it, like, it's like giving yourself like a real life, you know?
yes. And the thing is like
crazy.
all those like ways that you were raised and taught that things are supposed to be, it's like, I don't know, to think like people never change those things. And like, you know, the irony is, I think you would agree with this also, even though like we've had different experiences, is like, you know, the irony is like a terrible thing or terrible things had to happen in order for this great thing to happen, which is like you arriving in a different place of life. And like, that's the truth is like, that's often how it is. Like no one who's like, you know, moving along with this rosy life is going to wake up one day and be like, I want to upend my life. I want to change my life.
Yeah.
No, something has to nudge you into that space. And more often than not, it's something that is not good, let's say. And it feels weird. Like that was a very confusing feeling for me for a long time to think like, wow. And it took a long time to get here. And I didn't want to say it until I actually felt it. But like the rest of my life, like the rest of your life is going to be, I don't know, I feel like so much richer and meaningful and better. And I'm not saying it in those like fucking trite ways. Like I really feel that way. It's like, you know, for a really long time, like I would wake up in the morning and I'm just like, ugh, all I want is like for the day to be over. And then I know I have to do it again. And now it's like, yes, no days are perfect and you still have stuff. Like my life isn't perfect. I don't live in a bubble, but like I wake up and it's just like this like hunger for something to happen. And you're looking down like the rest of your life. And rather than seeing like this black hole, you're seeing like every day is like full of possibility. And you also become like almost more accountable because you're like, I'm the only person that's responsible for making that happen. And that, I think that just gives you like this like frisson of like something that you want to like make better. And it's like, everything is open now in a way that it wasn't before. And yeah, like a shitty thing had to happen for to come to this realization, but like, that's what it is. And like, you could choose to just live in that like blissful ignorance forever. And sometimes, you know, like we all know people like that. Like you look at these like, you know, Lululemon bitches and like they're walking around and I'm just like, la la. It's like everything's so easy. Like all she wants is like, you know, her like straight hair and her latte and like her, you know, banker boyfriend. No offense to banker boyfriend.
I wear Lululemons.
And like whatever. But you know, it's like they live in ignorant bliss. And I'm just like, wow, everything's like so easy for her. Sometimes I wish I was like that.
Yeah.
Because they don't have that like angst.
And or like horror in
everything's
events.
just like
Like everything's like, and then today this fucking the pain.
But I'm just like, you know what? I don't know. I like to have that. Like I mean,
meet the pain.
This is maybe like a very dark trait, and like you know, too. Maybe this is like a Scorpio thing, but it's also like I live in that space, and I think like I don't trust people who have never had hardship. Like they're
I don't
suspect.
know anyone.
No,
I don't
because I think
know
like,
what to talk to. I'm like, so
I don't know what to talk
how
to them
was
about.
your what's going on? They're like, everything's really good. I'm like, oh,
Okay, bye.
me too.
Like I think that
It's
makes
just like I
you-
literally don't know. It's like you can't connect.
you can't connect.
I don't know how to like do that.
And I think that
I'm
it
trying to
makes you
learn,
like
though.
such a, it just makes you more layered and it makes you to me like a more interesting person and somebody that like I want to know everything about you. And yeah, like there are times that I wish I could just be like easy breezy and like, you know, talk about the weather and
Pretty
whatever.
easy breezy.
And like I can do that. Like you put me in a room. I think that's like a skill that I've gotten from like, you know, 20 years in PR. Like I can have a conversation with like a table, like with anyone, anything for almost anyone for a limited amount of time. It's fine. But the stuff that really gets me going
Yeah.
is like I want to know what's in your inside.
Yeah, same.
You know?
I know it's not great when I'm like people come into the store and I'm like, so are we gonna do this? Like, is this person gonna do this with me? And sometimes they don't. And they're
you
like,
have to accept that.
who's this insane woman trying to like deeply connect with me over here?
You're like, I'm just trying to buy a purse.
I know. But yeah, no, I understand that. I think that, yeah, what I learned the other day is that not everyone is for everyone.
Honey,
I was
step
like,
into my office.
literally,
Not
but it was like,
oh my God.
it hit, like I've heard that before.
And then
It like
It
got under my
crystallizes.
skin and I was like, oh, so that feeling that like people don't like me, like
you're not for everyone.
doesn't really fucking matter. Like I like it like shed off me because like lately I feel like, you know, in business and in my
Life.
personal life,
Mhm.
it's like I have had situations where I'm not willing to like abandon myself anymore. So I sort of am forced to like do the uncomfortable thing because like I won't let myself go there, but I'm also still very uncomfortable in like doing what I need to do and what I actually really want to do. So inside it like still it doesn't feel like totally natural and I still think about it and I'm like, I wonder if I'm like a total bitch or like I wonder if this like person
Exactly
is like
the same.
and I just don't know if I'm like if that's just going to be something that I like keep at arm's length my entire life where I'm like you may think that but like you know
Exactly the same.
you're not going off and like
Exactly.
breaking people's kneecaps so
No, I think
or
I mean,
like you know
this is a topic I've been intimately
assaulting
exploring.
people you have
Oh my God.
yeah
Like,
same
incessantly and intimately in a way that I didn't think I would be past a certain age.
same
Because and like let's talk about it. So I
like does everyone just hate me like I
Right.
sometimes think that I'm like it's the whole world.
I mean, so much to say on this. Like not does everyone just hate me, but like I don't know. It's so interesting. Like I think like a lot of what brings us to some like progress and like, you know, relationship with ourselves is like self-discovery and self-knowledge, right? And like it's everyone says it and it's only words until it actually feels like until you feel it, until it's like you've absorbed it and it becomes a real thing for you, right? And it's true. Like I can say as someone who like didn't really do a lot of inner work. Like I was very introverted and thought a lot about this stuff. Even as a child, I was always like the quiet one that like sat in the corner quietly and like ruminated. And my brother was like the rah, rah. He was like the clown. Everybody loved him. He was so extroverted. And like that made me feel so like, you know, like I'm dark or something. And
I'm angry. Who's the angry girl in the corner?
My God. Don't even talk to me about anger. Like I can't. That's a whole other topic.
Especially when like people. I mean,
when people say that.
Yeah, they're like, you should like, hey, beautiful, you should smile. I'm like,
oh my God, I'm gonna kick you in the fucking teeth.
Like, what does my face look like?
But it's also like I don't know if like not my parents, like even my mother did that too. There was like a thing about like, you know, be happy. And she was always like, what do you have not to be happy about? Like, you're young, you're beautiful, you're smart, you have everything, whatever. But the whole anger thing is it makes me angrier when people, like, do people say to you, like if people accuse you of like being angry or something, and I don't know why, but that's like a particularly sore thing for me because I think that like any time that you feel misunderstood by someone, I think that's what really like gets your goat, especially for people who are maybe like a little bit more like introverted or like inward looking, because I think it's a lifetime of like playing to people's expectations of like what they think you should be. And in so doing, you end up betraying yourself, which is like what we talk about. But you're doing it because of some like wounding, like you want people to like look at you and like you and whatever, even though like you've done nothing wrong. But then the actual reality of it is like you're not angry, like you're actually someone who's like so full of love. And like the anger, I mean, you know, it can come from somewhere or it can be misdirected or whatever. Or people look at you and like identify something in you that they see as anger, but it really isn't. But it just like,
or maybe it is.
And by the way,
which is okay.
Like the person who I like bow down to most in this world who changed and saved my life, and like, you know who that is. Like, you know, he's like once told me, and this really like validated everything for me, is like, you know, people think anger is like this terrible thing, like you're an angry person, especially if it's like angry woman or whatever, which is like kiss of death. And it's not. Like, it's a completely normal, healthy emotion like everything else, like sadness, like hurt, like pain, like anger. Because sometimes, especially for someone who's lived like in a shadow for a really long time, you need to be in touch with and release the anger to get in touch with the things that pain you. And that doesn't make you an angry person. It makes you someone who is feeling angry at any given moment about a certain thing. And you need to like identify and be in touch with that and in conversation with that to get over the thing. And once you do, you're not angry. You're just someone who has identified something and it let you work something out. And so it always felt to me like people who like latch onto that and think you're like angry, I'm just like, wow, it's so short-sighted. And that to me like identifies something in you that's not worked out. Because like if you're reducing someone to this one tiny minuscule aspect of their personality and completely disregarding the rest of their person, it's like you have work to do. Like you can't be so myopic. Like you have to see people for like the larger person they are.
But I have to play devil's advocate.
Tell me.
What about the woman with the Lululemons?
What do you mean?
But that's such a...
That I judged her?
Yeah.
Okay, so I will cop to that and I apologize to...
But you don't have to. I just feel like you...
No, you're right.
You know?
So listen.
And maybe she's really...
Maybe she's a great person.
Or really sad.
100%. That could be. And this is something, I'm happy you said this, because one thing that I've been working on is accountability. And like, I've never been someone who's like judgy in like a mean girl's way, but yeah, we all have judgments.
Yeah, it pops out.
We look at people, we make assumptions, and like, it's true, because if you have to extend to someone else the same kind of like leash and the same kind of, you know, allowances that you would want someone to make for you. Yeah. So you're totally right. And
but I think there is like this thing where it's I love like relationships that I have that do that, you know, because I feel like a lot of relationships that I've had in the past are sort of like, yeah, you're like really in a bad place, but I'm just gonna like co-sign it because I don't really care to deal with it. And like, or
Are
I
you
don't
talking
feel
about
like,
friend ones or really or like romantic ones?
I've never had a romantic relationship where someone didn't point out, you know,
A flaw?
a flaw. I mean, kindly, more, you know, in the past,
But
it
like in
wasn't
a sympathetic way or like in an accusatory way?
more recently, kindly, but
Okay.
maybe in the past,
Right.
whatnot, you know, it's gotten kinder. My boyfriend now is not, he's wonderful. So he's
So
like,
that's great. 'Cause
it's very
you
good.
made it. You're
hell-
choosing.
Yeah, yeah,
better
yeah, yeah. My
people.
choices are definitely different. Before it didn't really feel like a choice,
Right.
more just like
Because you allowed that to happen to yourself.
totally. I had no you know, I just wanted to be loved.
Which is true. And it's so funny because like, you know, I realized like yesterday I was having this conversation with this woman who I am in her care at the moment. And like it's like this thing of self-esteem is such a mind fuck. And it's like, you know, I was telling her that like who thought that like you'd be having the same thoughts and going through the same things at the age of like 30 or 40 as you were when you were like 20, and you think you get over those things and you have much better tools. Like I know you do, I do.
But like, what if you don't and you are
But
that
you
an
do,
adult?
because I think even having an awareness of it is different from like a time when it was like vexing you and you didn't know why.
Right, but you do work on that. Like how
course.
there's, I mean,
So
if you don't, you know, it's like sometimes I used to think that like an adult, like you got to a point and then all of a sudden you were like, oh, I'm an adult now. I've popped out of the egg.
But you never get to that point.
No.
And it's never ending. And
The
like
journey.
growing and the journey, it's never ending, which is kind of beautiful because if you think about it, like, you know, it's so much to look forward to. It's like look at the arc of like your life the past 5 years, and like I look at mine and like look at where you are, and like look at like Sarah, I don't know, 5 years ago probably could never have foreseen Sarah of today. Like all this crazy shit that you've done, that you've gotten to do, that like mega brands are like collaborating with you. And you like, I remember when I first met you, and like, okay, granted, we had a different relationship, so I maybe didn't take you that seriously. But when you were like, oh, I want to be an artist. And I'm like, oh, this girl, like everyone wants to be an artist, you know? But like and then when you unleashed it, you know, whether somebody gave you permission to do it or whether you gave yourself permission to do it, you like unleashed this stuff onto the world. And like it was good because you were doing it wholeheartedly, but also like it was good and someone took notice and rewarded you for it and like gave you amazing like global projects for it. And like, you know, not that that should define like how good you think you are or whatever, but like, you know, an entity in this world that is really respected, like came to you and said, I validate what you're doing and it's amazing, you know? And something changed for you where like, if you had remained, you know, Sarah of, I don't know, 2010 forever, like you wouldn't have even had the wherewithal to do that stuff.
I mean, I don't even no, yeah, it would have been pretty.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even. But that whole thing of like being like it still is definitely like like I don't.
The self-esteem thing.
The self-esteem thing, the feeling like I can. Like I love the titles of stuff like make me uncomfortable just because I feel at times maybe like I don't deserve it or something.
So it's so funny because I wonder if
Which is like, why would I, you know, it's like, oh, hi, I'm Sarah, I'm an artist. Like it makes me feel sick inside.
I wonder, do you think that that is specifically an artist thing? Because you're not the first person. So like my ex who is an artist used to talk about this all the time. And he was like, humble to a fault. Like I thought that he like should have been far less humble, but I think there's also a thing with artists. Like when I look at them, like along with a few other professions in the world, I think to be an artist is like the most beautiful, heart-opening, like magical, but also like soul-crushing, devastating existence in this world, not to get too heavy.
Yeah, but I mean,
because
it's like an extension of
first
your
of all,
inside.
everything is completely subjective. You're turning yourself inside out, and you're any kind of artist you are, you're painting or you're making the world in the way that you see it. You're responding to something that speaks to you, and that's what you put out as a physical object, right? So it's completely subjective, and you're also putting it out in the world for everyone else to look at and to judge. So it's not like, oh, do they like me, Sarah? It's like, now I made Sarah in like a piece of paper or in a sculpture or whatever. Are they going to like it, or is it going to be a piece of shit? And in turn, do they think I'm a piece of shit?
Yeah. And like, also like if it's, I think the other layer to that is like sometimes it, you know, for me, it's the process of creating that is like the expression. So sometimes I don't really identify so much like with the end of it. I'm passionate about
The making.
And so I don't really I don't know if it changes, or like if my like there's not much of an attachment to the thing that comes out. It's like throwing up or something.
Right. It's like I'm having a baby or something.
Yeah. You know, like it's like this thing, and then at the end I'm so tired and I'm just like, oh.
You're like wiped.
And then
you put everything
and
into
I don't
it.
even really like, the more I sit with something, like I'll either like, maybe I'll want to throw it away, or maybe I'll just like have I won't like identify with it at all, or like some things I just like, there's like this little like I don't know where it is, but
I get it. Like
there's like some things that I'll like save, and they like a piece of paper with like a drawing on it, and like for some reason I just like keep it for like years. I have some weird that no one else sees, because like I don't know.
It's totally personal, and it's an exhausting process. And by the time you give birth to this thing, it's almost like that's the byproduct, but it's like secondary.
Yeah.
But it's interesting what you say, because so what I was saying was he was the same way. Like people used to be like, "Oh, what do you do?" And it was like he couldn't verbalize. He couldn't say like, "Oh, I'm an artist," and I'm like, "No, you're an artist."
Oh. It makes me, it literally like, it gives me like, it makes me feel.
But you know what the thing is, like, I think also, and this is not to be like, I don't know why, but in the past couple of years, suddenly there's this spate of people who like, everyone thinks they're an artist. And by the way, like, yes, it's subjective, but like, not everyone's an artist. It's
yeah,
like,
but I'm all, you know,
the
but I
people
think
who
that
really
like,
are can say it. But every fucking guy out there who thinks he can take pen to paper is like, I'm an artist.
but maybe I don't know. I mean, sometimes they're the, like, you just never know what someone is.
You never know. It's true.
Like you really never know, and it's none of like anyone's.
No, it's
like,
true. And everyone has to live their truth. And like,
but I think that I think there is this, especially with social media, and especially with like, you know, what people say, like sort of like responding to what people want you to be, or responding to people like being confused by what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like you're always sort of hitting like bumpers, and you're like, ooh, like does this person.
And then you have to detour.
Yeah. And it's just like too much thinking. So when I am like in making, or when I'm, you know, working, it's like all of that goes away, and like it's shut off, and all of the noise is just gone.
But that's the best way to do it. And like I've observed like artists and people working in that space, and I'm saying it as someone who looks at it from the outside. Like I think that the only way that you can like create something that is of you, and that you feel is really like a reflection of you, and that you're going to be proud of, whatever anyone else thinks, is like the second you start doing like, well, let me tweak it this way because he said to do that, and then she said to make this change, and then it's like fucked. Like it's already not your thing, and it's the hardest thing to do. But I think it's like, it goes along with like, in a broader sense, just like understanding how you move in this world, because at the end of the day, like what you realize is like everything that you do in this world has to, for yourself, has to please you. And I'm not saying that at the expense of other people. Like you still need to be a good person. And obviously like, it's not just like,
I love
everybody
how you
else.
have to say that.
No, because
but it's like, and just make sure everyone else is okay.
No, but I'm not saying to like,
no, I know. I mean, I think it's great. It's
happily in this world, and to have like, and I hate to use the word happy because I think that's like a dumb word. Like no,
fulfilled.
Like
maybe
who's happy? Like happiness is like some weird contract. Like, nobody's happy. I think to be content and to be fulfilled and to feel like purposeful and glad in this life is like you can lie to yourself for a little bit, but it always catches up to you. And I think that like you have to be so honest with yourself before you can even be like that thing with other people. And I think that that is one of the hardest things. And it's like constant work. It's daily. And like you were saying, like when you arrive as an adult, whatever, that's one of the things that I think you never quite arrive at. You have to work at it every day, which is like which I think you and I have talked about, like the difference between, in every facet of life, being so reactive to or being so susceptible to all the outside forces that are acting on you every single day, because they are and they're never going to stop, versus going into the world with like a very, very like strong, concrete core and understanding of you, makes you so much less susceptible to all of the forces acting on you. And it changes, at least for me, like it literally changed my life and changed the way that I move in this world, the way that I move in space, the way that I react to people and situations. And it's not perfect because you're not a robot, you're a human being and you have feelings and you still react to things. But like, to think of like, even just a few years ago, like a little like would make me like fall down in space. And now it's like, you do this and it's like, you can't fucking touch me, like, and yeah, certain situations are going to like knock you off your balance and like make you upset or whatever. But it is so different. And I think that applies to everything we do in the world. And it's like, I feel in a way like I almost can't like even imagine it, but I feel like so grateful to have gotten like that knowledge and that experience. And I think, I mean, obviously, like, a great many people have like been instrumental in doing that for me in the past few years, like probably like one or two in particular. But like it changes your whole life,
Yeah, and you can share it with other people.
Yeah. And I think that even like when you were talking about, like you in past relationships or whatever, because certainly that's something that we've talked about. And, it applies there too. And it applies like even more importantly because, like we've talked about this too, like obviously for a long time, I was like very much not in that world. Like I basically like closed shop and went to the nunnery for 5 years with like, one or two like people who like mistakenly slipped in the middle. But like, there wasn't any real thing. And that was by choice. Like I didn't want it. I didn't want to know from it. And it's so funny because I feel like I had a reprieve of all these years of like dealing with all that nonsense because I just didn't want any part of it. And then, when I came to a place where I was like, okay, I'm ready for this. And like, I actually like wanted again, because you forget like, yes, the thing that happened and it doesn't go away. And that thing that people talk about, like it becomes very real. Like you never forget what happened or it never leaves you, but you learn how to live with it. It's like it scabs over, you put it in a little box and it's always there, but you're alive and like you have life to live, and like you make a choice to like either like stay in this dark space or to like take the lessons that you've learned. Anyway, so the point is like, going back into this space, which like part of it was very novel and very exciting. It's like, ooh, there's like all these people out there. And suddenly you're just like, you feel like a teenager. It's like you're boy crazy again. And you're just like, oh, you know what? Like, I forgot how much I love this. And like, I forgot how good it feels. And I forgot that like, I love like flirting, and I love like the whole like seduction. Like I love that whole thing. And like, I don't know. I love it. Like I do love it. Like
a crush.
Men can make you crazy sometimes, which I'm sure like girls can make guys crazy too. But just like everything about them, like in the good ways, is just like, oh, I fucking love this. And I missed it so much, But sorry to get like so personal, but like you go into it and then like something happens and you're just like, oh my God, is this still happening?
Yeah.
Like we are grown ass adults. And like, this is a thing that I dealt with when I was 27. How am I still feeling this now?
I know. And you're just like, wait, what? No, it can't be.
It can't be.
Yeah.
But my point is like, you have to call on those teachings. And sorry, I'm talking so much about this, but I feel like very strongly about it.
This is
okay
with Edith.
So it's the same thing. It's like, I'm not going to get like too personal about it, but like,
why?
Okay, fine. I will get personal because it's a specific example. And I know like examples are good, but no, it's like, something happens and you think you have it together and then something happens.
You were dating a guy that
I wouldn't even call it like dating because it didn't go on for that long. But like, I think also for me, like I've always
feelings erupted.
Yeah. Like I've always been this kind of person. Like I don't need to, like, I know right away. It's like, I don't need this whole like, oh, like we're a day. Like if I like you and you like me, let's go. And also like, I know right away, like I was never like a girl who had like a million boyfriends. Cause that wasn't me.
Yeah. I'm like 0 in.
Yeah. 0.
I love you.
And like, I never, like there are only a handful of people that I ever thought okay to stop with for any period of time. And I'm just like, it's like you. And I know right away. Like I know right away. It's like apartments. I'll know it when I see it, So like, I don't have a type, but I'll know it when I see it. Anyway, so, that's the one thing, like I've never doubted, like I always trust myself and I'm usually right. And sometimes I get surprised and hopefully it's like surprise in a good way, but no, like, something happened and like, somebody like, it's like amazing in every way. And like, it checks all the boxes and you have this like feeling again and all the things that are important and all the things that you feel and like, you feel aligned and everything's great. And you're like, simpatico and like everything's amazing and like physically and like everything else. And then just like this one thing, what is it? Blindsides you?
I don't know, but it fucking sucks.
It fucking sucks. Whatever the word is.
Side swipes.
And then
blindsides.
And it's like this
hit
recently
over the
happened,
head.
Which like just in the interest of transparency and just to like make it a juicy podcast, like I will tell you because we don't need to like, like beat around the bush. It's actually insane to see yourself because you think that you're like so far past something and then something triggers you and you have a very similar reaction to one that you have had a long time ago before you were this like enlightened person. And immediately like I caught myself even as it was happening and was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like I just like saw myself like slipping into this, like I'm talking or I'm saying something that is like, it feels uncomfortable and I don't know why. And then I realize like I'm betraying myself or I'm trying to like convince someone of something so that they'll have a different opinion of me.
It.
And I'm just like, never, ever, ever do this. And in that moment, like as painful as it is to admit this to yourself and you wish this weren't the case, is like, this is not it because like, I'm not out here trying to like apply to college and be accepted. I'm not out here like being a puppet, like trying to like, dance for my dinner or whatever. If there's any part of me, like none of us should be out here trying to convince someone of something because you know what's in you, like who you are. And if you're trying to convince someone to see you a certain way, first of all, not only is that a losing battle because you can't convince someone of something, but it's the reason you feel that discomfort is because you're betraying yourself.
Yeah.
And like, I remember when I was in like, you know, a little bit of more like woo-woo therapy, which by the way, I loved, like, you know, he always used to talk about like, oh, it's your little girl that you have to like retrain and whatever. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then you realize it's true because the little girl is the one that never had these tools and this vocabulary and let the world act upon her. And now that you're older and like you've retrained yourself and like disabused yourself of some things that your parents or your people told you were true, like now you can sort of make amends to the little girl because now you're like this empowered person who has so much more knowledge. And the second you start slipping back into that because it's like so ingrained, you're like, what are you doing? Like you're betraying us again. And, you know, the other thing I realized is like, you're never going to convince someone else of something. And by the way, like, this is also a change because like, you know, 10 years ago, I would have been like, fuck you. And I wasn't. Like, I so shocked myself. I was like, I have no ill feelings towards this person. Like, in fact, I have a lot of cariño for this person. Like, I have a lot of warm feelings for this person. And like, for his journey, like, he's going through what he's going through and he's going to feel what he feels. And that's valid, even though I disagree with it. He has his feelings and he has his journey. And like to try, this is like was a really big, like to try to convince someone to come over to your side or your way of thinking is fruitless because, you know, you can only see in someone else what you also have in yourself. And I really believe that. So what does that mean? I think like if you're expecting someone to see something in you that they're just not seeing and you're trying to like force it and force it and force it, it's not going to happen because they're just not there yet. Like you're in different places. Like I'm at this place where like I would give that kind of like openness to someone else. Be like, let me try to see you in a broader sense. Maybe that person's just not there yet. Maybe they have more work to do. Maybe like they haven't arrived at the place where you have. And like the thing that is like you realize happens is the reason it's so devastating. And it was very much like this, I think, like once in my past relationship or whatever, which like my guru taught me, my greatest guru, is like, the reason it's so devastating and you feel so disappointed sometimes is because you see someone, yes, and all the things that are good, but you're in love with their potential. Like you put this person on a pedestal because you're trying to see like the best version of who they are, which I still think, even as naive as it is, I think it's kind of a beautiful thing. And I never want to lose that because the only reason you're doing that is because you can see that potential in them, but maybe they're not ready to meet their own potential, which is always going to disappoint you. But also like you're doing it from a place of like, I'm looking at this person from my highest self. And like, that's the only plane I want to operate on. Like, I want to be my best self. And if that means like you call me on shit, whatever, that's partnership. Like, I want you to do it. That's real partnership. It's like, I want to operate from my highest self and I want to see you as your highest self because I know that we can get there together. And like, if you're not there, I can't bring you there. You have to come there in your own time. But I never want to not feel like that, even if it ends up disappointing me, because I want to operate on that plane with like someone who is like simpatico with me with that.
Yeah. I mean, even now, like in my relationship, like even when I want, you know, like say like I want to hear what you have to say, you know, like
I'm allowed to drink.
I want to. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. You can drink, can eat. Do you want some pizza?
No, I'm good.
Could order one. Like I will say something like even a few like I had a situation at work where I did not act like my highest self, and I felt pretty bad, and I told Graham about it, and I was like, and I did this, you know, and I sort of just like snapped, you know, I just like there was anger, and he was like, yeah, like it's,
had
and
a
I was
weak
like,
moment.
I'm gonna need you to just tell me that it was
That it's
fine.
okay, yeah.
He's like, yeah, but like, you don't think it was okay, and like,
Right,
I'm not
right,
gonna tell you it was
right.
okay. I'm like, okay, I just like preface next time that I just wanted you to
You just want
co-sign
someone to go
my
like this.
bullshit.
Yes, of course, of course.
But like, I'm so glad that he doesn't, join me there and be like, no, you totally should have done that. And that's right. Yeah, no, it was like,
and like the beauty is, and it's real when like someone can make you feel like
Yeah,
better,
and also
but also call you on your shit, which is like, that's the thing. Like, oh my God, that's like when someone sees you and they know you, like you just feel like everything is okay in the world. And like to not be seen and to not be understood.
that's
like,
right.
That's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the worst.
That's the worst.
So when you're looking into the void of like, the masses and you're sort of looking out there, it's like you can't be perceived. And you're so like trying, I feel like everyone's attempting like on whatever scale, like to sort of be perceived in a certain way, but you'll never be perceived in the way, like, because you're not,
Yeah.
you
and you
can-
have to just know, like, I don't know.
It's like sometimes when you meet like someone you really admire and they're like not.
Never meet
And
your
you're
heroes.
like, no, you're just
Never
like,
meet your heroes.
stay. Yeah. Wendy Williams.
Wait, you met Wendy Williams?
Yeah, went on the Wendy Williams show.
Why did I not know this?
Yeah, it was on Wendy Williams. Then I went over to her house for meatballs and cheesecake. And she told me,
Such a weird comedy. Also not kosher.
I don't think she's kosher.
I know.
And she told me, she's like, yeah, you just like can't get too close to the light. Like stay far away from the light.
But I think caveat about like celebrities.
she was also in like negligee.
I think they start to inhabit like their own different planet.
You have to.
So I can't blame
guess.
them
like,
because they just become like weird and like crazy.
but maybe not.
I don't know. Maybe.
Some probably
You know
do.
what I mean? Like they live in a different universe.
Yes. Some of them I feel like are.
Wait, so I have to, oh wait, I don't know if I should say this.
You can say it.
This is totally a tangent, but just speaking about celebrity. Like I don't give a shit about celebrities, but but there happen to be two who I think are like the coolest. Like one who I think is the coolest. So
Who?
Elvis Costello lives in my building. They live somewhere else also, but they still have a place in the
Oh
building.
my God. I feel like you would be friends with
No,
him.
you don't understand. I'm so obsessed with him. I think he's just
That's like me and Danny DeVito.
oh my God, damn.
I love him. I want to marry him. I just want to go walk his.
I just love Twins. It was like the best movie.
I
One of the
watched-
best movies
It's the
ever
best
made.
of all
And the
time.
fact that he's still married to Rhea Perlman of Cheers fame.
He's a joy.
Love Danny
He's
DeVito.
like a
He's a
gift
joy.
on the.
He's like a
He
little.
also has a dachshund that wears a little pink or a little yellow dress.
Of course he does.
Have you ever seen the
Freaking-
pictures?
I've seen the pictures.
You need to like
He's
have
like
that come up as like
a hot dog.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and he just walks it. And how tall is he?
like 4'2".
Perfect. He's perfect.
They're both like low to the ground.
He's beautiful. I'm sorry. I'm just like envisioning Danny DeVito sitting where you are. Not that I don't love that you're here, but like,
Girl, aim high.
could you
It could
imagine?
happen.
That's the
Listen.
goal.
We can make it happen.
Let's go find him.
We can find him.
I'm gonna hunt him down.
So for the past couple of
Kismet.
years, I've been working, and I feel so like honored and like educated and blessed and lucky to have been even in this sphere, because it's been like such a learning experience for me, for someone
And
who
maybe
like,
they feel the same. I would
mean,
say they probably feel the same way.
like for someone who like never knew anything and never wanted to know anything about this world, it's like now I know more than I ever fucking wanted to know. But yeah, so I've been working for the past couple of years with this group that the artist Nan Goldin started called Pain. It's basically a group that she very like bravely started a few years ago after her own struggles in recovery and with addiction, to take down Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family, who are the owners of Purdue Pharma, who basically, I was going to say some would say, but it's not even some would say anymore. It's not conjecture. ignited the prescription opioid crisis in this country. And we won't get into all the details, but basically like, false, marketing their opioids in a way that like presented them as not being addictive and whatever. And it was a complete lie. And like there was this whole cabal, meant to like grow this business, which they did make like stupid amounts of money off of. And like the nuance, the thing that like we always talk about is like the organization is not anti-opioid, which like a lot of people refer to it as that. It's not. An opioid used in like a proper hospital, medical setting, it's an anti-pain thing. Like people use fentanyl in hospitals, but like you can't be buying it on the street corner, snorting it to get high. Like it needs to be administered by professionals. So this organization is not an anti-opioid organization. It's anti, the
mass
entire
production.
entity, which basically like did all of this nefarious shit that you can't even believe that people do, like for greed. And it's like, you realize like the greed is just like, the limit does not exist.
In every area.
It's deceptive marketing. It's also like proactively, pushing these things out. And then when people started realizing that it was a problem, they totally shifted the narrative and had this whole, group of like publicists and consultants, including like McKinsey and all these people who like advise them on how to do this in a better way to make more money. And you're basically profiting off people's death. And there were like doctors that were like being given kickbacks and all this stuff because, they were selling more opioids and like overprescribing. And then like all these like pharmacy chains were, the whole thing is just like insanity. Anyway, the point is she exposed them, which is crazy, and went on this like mission to take them down, which is literally like a David and Goliath situation because, she was this artist who like is in the canon of American art, like one of the most important people, and basically put her career on the line because it could have meant like the end for her. And she was also going up against like people who are really powerful and have like limitless funds and lawyers and anything, and are capable of anything. And coming from the art world, her sort of MO was initially to try and get all these institutions, it's like, it's reputation washing. They did all this bad shit, but their names are splattered all over every important cultural institution and museum in the world, not just in New York, in the world. And so that gives them sort of like a cred and a kind of like cover for doing what they do. And so she basically wanted to get all of these institutions to take down their names, to stop taking their money, which, in this climate, everyone understands is so difficult because, funding is so hard to come by for anyone, but especially for like cultural institutions, it's like the lifeblood. Like without those huge donors all over the walls, like they would not exist. So it's a really touchy subject. Anyway, everyone who's been following this for the past couple of years knows. If you don't know, read Patrick Radden Keefe's book. If you don't know, go see All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, which is a movie that Laura Poitras made, and it's been nominated for an Oscar that details our like whole campaign and Nan's life and work and how they all intersect. It's in wide release now, so go see it. It was just released in the UK as well. And it's really like, I think for me who came to this, so I should say like part of what we do is we do these direct actions, mostly in cultural institutions, but also whenever there was sort of like a bankruptcy hearing or anything like that, where, members of the Sackler family or Purdue Pharma were present, protesting outside. We also partner with organizations like Housing Works and Vocal and, trying to get like legislation passed and trying to talk to lawmakers and, other harm reduction groups and, make everyone understand that like to change this thing, it's not just about taking down these nefarious actors, which it is, but it's also about changing the entire way that we look at and that society looks at, addiction, substance use disorder, recovery. It's completely different, and it's not a criminal concern. It's a public health concern. It's a mental health concern. Like, all of these people are people who need help, who are like, just, if you're happy-go-lucky, you're not going to go start snorting heroin. That's just not the way it works. So if we go to the genesis of this thing, it's like people in trouble, people who need support services. And unfortunately, like in America, that's just not the way it's looked at. Like, we're throwing people in jail, which doesn't help anything. Recidivism is crazy. Like, it's not working. And I think that, even from people I know in my personal life who obviously applaud, these like big gains that Nan has made and that the group has made, it's like even the awareness, which is much more basic. People call me all the time, and we have this group chat where we talk about everything, and it's so heartening to see like everybody participating and telling all of us like what the people in their orbit are saying. And like, people have said things to me, people who know much more about this space of like addiction and drugs and all this stuff than I ever did. Just like the awareness that she's brought and the changes that she's made. And it's been amazing. So I think for me, it was very much a way to help me like, somehow take something terrible and make it useful. And, my ex didn't die of prescription opioids. It was like a heroin overdose laced with fentanyl, which is like killing everybody and their mother now. But, short of, I couldn't go like track down the, Mexican cartel who's cooking the fentanyl, or the Chinese factory who's cooking the fentanyl, or like the fucking dealer who's like selling the shit for $10 on a street corner in Bushwick. Like, that was not available to me. So this felt like tangentially, but also like directly related, to try and like do some good and to try to shed light on something that was related and to change something. And I think it did really help. And I think that like a lot of it was really painful because you get really granular about, drugs and this topic that is still really scary to me. But like, you have to turn it into something tangible and good. And so that's kind of what I've been working on a personal level the past couple of years. And it's been eye-opening. I think even just to be like in the orbit of someone like that, like, she's incredible as someone who like, has this like decades long art practice and is like, dealing with that in her own recovery, but also trying to like make these monumental changes in the world. And then everybody who's in the group with us is like so amazing and smart and inspiring and has great ideas. And like, it was just like a whole different, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that also like even just hearing like that, the group, it's like all of those people didn't come flying like from their, amazing lives. Like, they came into that from like
something
tragedy or like addiction or something really,
or adjacent.
Yeah, like a death of like someone close to them. So I feel like it's like one person sort of helps another person, and it's like
totally,
it's making a change and like a ripple effect, And you are like from the beginning of this conversation, just seeing sort of like, going through sort of like the list of the things like the, Vogue and Valentino and this, and like, you're so like, the second we start talking about, this is the stuff that like lights you up, and I think that it just shows like how much that like superficial sort of, that's like so not what's gonna, it's not it. I think it's like people think that like.
See, you're so like perceptive. You're so not 22-year-old Sarah Coleman that I turn my nose up at, and I hate myself.
Don't. Well, you know what? The journey of
totally
the self-loathing just minimizes.
I think you're so right, and I think that that like when you ask yourself like, it's funny, like right now I have less of a life plan than I ever had, which feels very disorienting because you think you're supposed to have it figured out. Like I was so much more on a linear path when I was in my 20s because I was like, I have to get this, then I have to get this job, then I have to move up and get this job. And I was like killing that shit. But now I'm just like, whoa, like it's like, you know, your ass gets handed to you. And I'm like, I don't know what the next 5 years looks like. But in a way, I feel okay, much more than okay about it. I feel like it had to happen because I'm like, I don't know, discovering what I want. And as long as it's okay, I'm going to ride this wave for a while, you know, until it's not okay. And I think you're totally right. I mean, like that stuff had its moment. It served a purpose. It made me who I am. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, the education and like all of that, it's like amazing.
And the experience and the people you've met and like, you know, I don't know, when you're like in your 20s and even in your early 30s, it's like, especially when you work in that kind of industry or you live in New York or I suppose LA or really anywhere, it's like, that's like how you are coming up in the world and it's like your currency.
Then you're like hit and you're like, okay, now I'll balance out.
And it's like how you identify.
Yeah.
And then you realize like, I've had all the jobs, like I've had all the titles, I did all the things, I bought all the shoes, I went to all the parties. Like it's anything beyond that now is like, it's dessert and it's not going to change. It's not going to change you. Like this is the kind of stuff that like for now, like lights you up and changes you. And who knows, like, you know, it'll, I don't know, parlay itself into something else. Who knows? But yeah, it's growth and like you're a different person and you're acting on different impulses. And, you know, I don't think like unless you're, you know, curing cancer or AIDS or whatever, like most of us are not going to change the world in those ways, but like we can make changes in small ways. And I don't mean to sound like Pollyanna about this, but it really is true because what you realize, like whether it's good or bad, you look at the world and like the shit is happening out there with or without you. Like you're not going to stop the tide, just like I couldn't stop something that was happening. All you can do is like, you have to start locally. Like you start inward with yourself, with your little circle, you do the things, you do good things. And the hope is that that kind of stuff reverberates outward, like into those bigger rings and those bigger circles and ultimately like out into the world. Because if you start from here and you want to change something in the world, you're always going to be disappointed because you don't have that kind of power.
I mean, I've been there and it's like, it leads you to like
despondency.
And it's just like
trying to control everything, like trying to control someone like feeling some way about you, trying to control a situation, like trying to control, I didn't get this job. You can't control it.
Yeah.
And it's the hardest thing to do, to accept that, like acceptance is so hard that like, I'm not like everyone has to be proactive. I'm not saying kick back and wait for things to happen to you, but if it's supposed to find you, it's going to find you. It's like, think about like right now, you're in a relationship that feels really good and healthy. And I'm not saying it's easy and I'm sure you're going to have things to work on, but you don't feel like you're constantly squeezing it to make it work.
No, I mean, it's like doesn't even like.
But when you're trying to squeeze it and you're like angsty, like, why is this? Why is it? You're like twisting and turning. And it's like that square peg round hole. It's not fucking happening.
Oh my, the square peg round
Stop trying to make
hole.
fetch happen.
No, I mean, literally, like it is. And you're always talking about it. You're always thinking about it. Like,
oh my God. I'm tired of myself.
Yeah, I know. And then when you like are actually happy, you're not like.
It just feels so much lighter. And you're like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be.
Like it's just supposed to be like that.
You know, like you hit an impasse with someone who you're in a relationship with. They don't like cut and run at the first sign of something being bad. They're like, okay, let's work on this together because I'm invested in you and you're invested in me. And I want you to overcome this thing. So like, I'm not going to like judge you for this mild, like, whatever in your experience right now. Like we're going to work on it together and that's healthy. Like I think a lot of people come to something, which I have noticed at least now, like now that I'm in like, you know, part B of this, is like a lot of people I think, and it's true, like as you get older, everyone's gone through situations and you've had bad things happen. And human nature is you want to protect yourself from
the ebbs and
more
flows.
Bad things happening. And so a lot of people I found have like they want to live in this world that is like a like this comforter. It's like everything's like puffy and cloudy and soft around them, like a Charmin box.
Story of my life.
Yeah. And they don't want any edges. Like they don't want any edges. But real life happens, like all the goodness happens in the edges. Like you have to be open to that. And it, like, I get it, trying to like, you know, protect yourself from anything that like feels like it's triggering a past bad experience. But you have to be able to discern between something that is actually going to happen to you that is bad and something that you perceive as perhaps like
uncomfortable, maybe
making you uncomfortable because it's happened before. And like, again, that's just the work. You can't force someone to get there before they're going to get there.
No. I feel like
Namaste.
no, I don't even know. I mean, I feel like
we went full circle.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just.
Also, I just want to say something. And again, I hope that I don't sound like in any way condescending. I really think about you a lot. Obviously, we're also neighbors. I'm so like proud of you as a friend, as like me looking at you as like Jewish mother. Like I have a lot of like nachas, which is like pride in you.
Thank you.
Like I just, you're like, you have been becoming and you are becoming this like incredible person that I feel like now, like 10 years after I met you, like have things to learn from you. Like I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
And I really mean that.
Thank you.
Like you are like you is kind.
Yeah.
No, you're like a really strong person who like keeps, like you keep busting through ceilings and like trying new things. You're just like, let me throw this against the wall, see if it happens. And like, fuck yeah, girl.
Do you feel good? Did it make you feel good?
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, I think it's like, I mean, this is fun.
Totally fun.
Right?
Was it
like,
fun for you?
Yeah. Having people come into, you're like, come step into my
lair.
Who didn't ever want to talk on a microphone?
I mean,
I'm not a singer, so I never really had.
No.
I never wanted to talk
but
on
I
stage.
forgot that this was here.
I know.
Because I feel like you and I talk about this all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe we're not as like articulate in our regular conversations.
You lose yourself in here.
Yeah. Because we're like in this room.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor.
I can't wait till part 2.
We've so much. As you can see, sorry, we just go on. So
don't apologize.
There might have to be a part 2.
There will be.
Okay.
Thank you.
Happy Friday, y'all.